Welcome everybody to the Yeshivah Flatbush High School very special Witness Theater program. We're glad you're here to experience a very special performance that we hope will stay with you for a very long time to come. I highly advise you get one of these at some point tonight, this program. It has a biography of our special guests, and it's something very special to take home. I ask you for a few minutes of your patience. I have 2 pages that I was asked to read. I'm very honored to do that, to recognize individuals and organizations that are responsible for tonight. So here it goes. Witness Theater is made possible through a unique partnership between Self-Help Community Service and the UJA Federation of New York. And this year has also received generous support from the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, Carol and Carl Hess, the Miriam and Arthur Diamond Charitable Trust, Robert and Trudy Gottesman Philanthropic Fund. Yeshiva Flatbush Witness Theater program is being generously supported through the Levine Institute for Shoah Legacy. Yeshiva Flatbush Old Braverman High School is proud to serve as the program host and this site of Witness Theater, which brings together 16 of our beautiful students with 5 incredible Holocaust survivors. The survivors' diverse experiences during the war and their lives today will be shared on the stage tonight. The unique and essential program started in Israel by JCC Eshel was brought to New York 11 years ago by Self-Help Community Services, the largest provider of service to survivors in North America. Please shut your phones. And a partner agency of UJA Federation. I'm very proud to say, she doesn't say that, I'm adding that it was piloted here at the Yeshiva of Flatbush. And we have remained, you can clap for that, it's a great place. And we have remained strong and active partners. New York is home to thousands of Holocaust survivors and has the largest concentration of survivors in the United States. Sadly, about 40% are still living in poverty. Many are alone, many are suffering with chronic illnesses and depression. While the total population of survivors is declining, the cost of their care is escalating as their needs become more complex. That is why in 2004, UJA Federation created the Community Initiative for Holocaust Survivors, known as CIHS, to raise funds to provide survivors with compassionate care to address their unique needs. Today, we are caring for survivors in New York, Israel, around the world, also including Ukraine. Projections indicate that the number of survivors who will require help of increasing intensity will not abate significantly until after 2025. That is why we seek to raise multi-year gifts to CIHS so we can be confident in our abilities to provide survivors with the stability of care that is so critical at this stage of their lives. A significant portion of CIHS funding is granted to Self-Help Community Services. Self-help's compassionate professionals often serve as survivors' last living relatives. By offering specialized culturally sensitive care throughout the New York metropolitan area, Self-Help ensures that survivors can live out their years with meaning, dignity, and the warm embrace of community. By you being here this evening and participating, you are now part of that community. And I encourage you to find out about the many different ways that you can continue to be involved, because caring for survivors is not just the work of one day a year. It's something that we must do every day until the very last survivor turns to us for help. I would like just to add that we are also very, very proud of all of our students, but we're extremely proud tonight of the 16 students, seniors, although 95 applied, 16 were chosen, who really committed themselves this year from day one, once a week, and they actually became family of our survivors. We're very proud. Yeah. We also welcome, we have like alumni here today. we have alumni survivors who've been here for many, many of the programs, and it's so nice to see them and some of the students who were with them the last years. It's a beautiful thing. You know, it's 4 years for the rest of your life. Absolute. Yeah. You're going to see some very special things. I'm going to explain how this all came about in a minute, but right now we're going to start our program with a very special reading from Yecheskel by our head of school, Rabbi Joseph Beta.
Hayata alai yad Adonai, vayotzieni beruach Adonai, vaynicheni betoch habekah, v'hi mele'ah atzamot. V'he'evirani alehem saviv saviv, v'hine rabot ma'od al pnei habekah, והנה יבשות מאוד. ויאמר אלי, בן אדם, התחיינה העצמות האלה? ואומר, אדוני אלוהים, אתה ידעת. ויאמר אלי, הנבא על העצמות האלה, ואמרת עליהם, העצמות יבשות, שמעו דבר אדוני. כה אמר אדוני אלוהים לעצמות האלה, הנה אני מביא בכם רוח וחייתם. ונתתי עליכם גידים, והעליתי עליכם בשר, וקרמתי עליכם אור, ונתתי בכם רוח וחייתם, וידעתם כי אני אדוני. וניבאתי כאשר צוויתי, ויהי קול כהנביא, והנה רעש, ותקרבו עצמות עצם אל עצמו. וראיתי, והנה עליהם גידים, ובשר עלה, ויקרם עליהם אור מלמעלה, ורוח אין בהם. ויאמר אלי, הנבא אל הרוח, הנבא בן אדם, ואמרת אל הרוח, כה אמר אדוני אלוהים, מארבע רוחות בואי הרוח, ובכי בהרוגים האלה ויחיו. והנבאתי כאשר ציווני, ותבוא בהם הרוח ויחיו, ויעמדו על רגליהם חיל גדול מאוד מאוד. ויאמר אלי, בן אדם, העצמות האלה כל בית ישראל המה. הנה אומרים, יבשו עצמותינו, ואבדה תקוותנו, נגזרנו לנו. לכן, הנבא ואמרת להם, כה אמר אדוני אלוהים, הנה אני פותח את קברותיכם, והעליתי אתכם מקברותיכם עמי, והבאתי אתכם אל אדמת ישראל. וידעתם כי אני אדוני בפתחי את קברותיכם, ובהעלותי אתכם מקברותיכם עמי. ונתתי רוחי בכם, וחייתם. והנחתי אתכם על אדמתכם, וידעתם כי אני אדוני דיברתי ועשיתי נאום אדוני.
It's impossible to describe the impact that this Witness Theater program over the years, including this year, have had at the students at Yeshivah Flatbush. Our survivors not only interacted with our 16 students, but most of our survivors participated in our Shabbatonim, in our seminars, where they interacted with hundreds and hundreds of students. The students will never forget their experiences with our Witness Theater guests. This entire experience, program, really came from one person, and that person is sitting right here. Sally Grazi Schatzkis. Thank God she was wise enough to choose a good high school to go to, wise enough to marry somebody who also chose a very good high school. His name is Danny, by the way. The only thing that surpasses Sally's talent and creativity is her dedication and love. We're very grateful to you, Sally. Please give a big hand for Sally Grazi.
Silence. These days, it is a rare commodity. We are perpetually surrounded with noise. From the audible sounds around us to the conceptual racket of global news, social media, and the stresses of daily life. We hardly ever experience silence in our lives. And when we do, it makes us uncomfortable. And so we are inclined to quickly reach for our phones, turn on a video, or find someone to talk to. We avoid silence. Over time, perhaps we have lost the ability to handle it. But in this year's Witness Theater program, we could not escape it. We experienced moments where deep questions were asked and answers were not readily available. We heard stories so awful that we could not find the words to respond. And often when we watched tears fall down cheeks wrinkled by 9 decades of life, we simply could not find our voices. And so instead of awkwardly filling it with noise, we embraced the silence. We sat in it, and we allowed it to seep into our bones. We simply knew we had to, because from the first week we were together, and each week thereafter, the survivors brought up the same question, which they ask at the top of our show. How can we possibly put words to our histories? For so many reasons, wouldn't it be best to stay silent? Interestingly, because this question formed the backbone of our journey together, the survivors' stories came forth in the form of conversation between them, as opposed to each person taking their turn to share, which is why tonight's show is structured differently than in years past. The Sound of Silence depicts 5 chapters, each focusing on a different kind of silence. In 4 of these chapters, the survivors' stories are portrayed in succession, one after the other, with only silent movement illustrating the narration. Only in chapter 3, the pinnacle of our show, titled The Silence of Loss, will you see acting with spoken words as our students breathe their own voices into the survivors' stories. Over the last 9 months together, we have challenged ourselves to truly be present in the moments where we could not find words, moments that would have been undermined if we had tried to put language to them. And what we found was that we started to become more attuned listeners. We started to hear things in the silence, many things, like breathing and praying and voices from the past. Rabbi Sachs, alav hashalom, explains that Judaism has always taught the positive value of silence. But he says silence isn't a virtue in and of itself. The silence that counts in Judaism, he writes, is a listening silence. And listening is a supreme religious art. Our group has become supremely skilled in this religious art of listening. And tonight, we invite you to lean into that silence with us and to hear how beautiful the sound is.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
In restless dreams I walked alone. Streets of cobblestone. Narrow streets of cobblestone.
Wednesday, 4:40 p.m. The session begins.
I've gotten used to crying on the inside. It makes it easier to bear the pain when I cry silently.
Makes me sad to tell this story. Why would I want to make these children sad? Maybe I wouldn't say anything.
Such horrible things. These children don't want to hear all of that. Maybe it's better not to tell them.
I don't even remember what happened to me. What will I have to tell them? What if I have nothing to say?
If I don't believe it myself, how can I make them believe it? There are no words for it.
This week left me speechless. Literally. After every story, there was a moment of silence. And though there were no words spoken, the room was thick with emotion.
And it felt like so much was happening in that silence. Listening, breathing, feeling, thinking, strengthening, remembering, processing, praying. And we realized that in that silence, we were connecting.
Without the need for words, without the ability to form them, that's where we could connect. Because despite our vast differences, in that silence, we could feel that we were all deeply human.
The silence of peace.
Before the war, we had homes. We had routines. We had school days and holidays. We had friends and teachers.
Time to play and time to work, parents, siblings, extended family.
We were carefree children. We were at peace in our hearts.
I was the third of 8 children, and my parents had hearts of gold. My father and his brothers had a wholesale grocery store, and on Fridays, they would let us children collect peanuts and chocolates in the warehouse.
I was the oldest of 4, so I had a lot of responsibilities. And I was never said no to my parents. Never. But I also had plenty of time to play with my friends. Dominoes, bingos, cards. We weren't wealthy, but we had a good time. And I remember being most happy at Pesach time when I would get a new dress.
We were a small community of Jews, and we were all very religious. My brothers and I woke up at 6 a.m. and went to Cheder every day. Then at 8 a.m., we went to public school. I was good at math, but in some subjects, I didn't always know the answer. But between my good friends Yossi and Carmen and me, someone always had the answer.
I was the third daughter, the baby of the family, and everyone wanted to mother me. When my parents brought me home from the hospital, I was passed around for everyone to hold and love. The whole family rejoiced when I was born.
My mother passed away when I was 3 years old. I was the 11th of 12 children. My father was well respected from men who owned a bookstore, and now he had to be both father and mother to all of us. And though he didn't show love with hugs and kisses, we could feel that he loved us when he looked at us.
The silence of indecision.
As anti Semitism seeped into our lives, we had some difficult choices to make. Should we stay or flee?
Save ourselves or sacrifice for others?
Should we respond or stay silent? Our daily lives were disrupted by fear and indecision.
I was 10 years old when open anti-Semitism became a normal thing to see. The friends who had been in my class for years suddenly became very mean. And one day, a few of them pushed me on the floor, held me down, and rubbed bacon on my lips. I was so scared I couldn't even speak.
My home became part of the hermetically sealed lodge ghetto in May 1940. Many people moved in with us. My mother died in a typhoid epidemic, and I was forced to have a job delivering rations to people who were quarantined. I was 14 years old and starving. One day I carried somebody's sugar ration. It was such a tempting situation that I feel guilty for even today.
When I was 10 years old, the Goyim started pulling our payers in the street. By 13, I was wearing the yellow star on my clothes. My father went to America and got us an apartment, but by then it was too late. He couldn't come back and we couldn't get out. And one night, there was a knock on the door and an order to pack what we could. We had less than 24 hours before we were all trucked to Munkach Ghetto.
Be ready tomorrow.
My parents moved from one shtetl to another until they realized that no shtetl was safe if you were a Jew. They begged their families to flee with them, but no one felt it was necessary or practical. So my parents took me and my sisters and left everyone else behind.
Our community avoided confrontation. Better to stay quiet than attract attention. But the day after Pesach in 1944, my home became part of the ghetto, and 100 people moved into our home. Still, I managed to be a child, fairly carefree and unafraid. Until one night, a police officer pulled out my father of our home and beat him senselessly. And no one fought back, not even my brothers. Then I knew something was very wrong.
The silence of loss.
My wonderful parents ran a soup kitchen before the war. They kept it open when our neighborhood became part of the ghetto. But when the transport started in May 1944, my family was deported to Auschwitz. In the cattle cars, I held my new baby sister, Pesca, when we were briefly allowed off the train to take care of our needs. I could see children playing on the other side of the tracks, and I wondered if baby Pesca would ever have a future where she could be as carefree as those children.
Auschwitz, May 1944.
All mothers should hold their own children.
Mama, that man said all mothers should
Yes,
hold...
Epi, I heard. Give Pesca to me, and you can watch over her luggage. It'll be okay.
But Mama, Pesca wants me to hold her. She's going to cry if she's not with me. Please, Mama, I don't want Pesca to cry.
Epi, this is no time to argue. You and Muncie keep watch over her luggage.
Pesca!
Canada, sorting area, Auschwitz, May 1944.
Another transport arrived this afternoon. Wealthy ones this time. They came in fur coats. We are going to have a lot of sorting to do.
Another transport? We just had one this morning.
Epi, what are you doing? You have to keep sorting, or they're gonna beat you.
I need to get this number off my arm, Muncie. If I ever escape, I don't want anyone to know that this is where I came from.
It's no use, Epi. It's burned into the skin. It's never coming off.
I need to use the toilet.
Use the garbage can behind the barracks. That's what we use here.
Keep moving! Nothing more to see here.
Muncie! Muncie! I just saw all these people, naked and screaming people, in a tiny room, and there was a little window and a little boy, and they shut the window and everyone went silent.
Evie, I don't understand. What happened? What did you see?
Remember the woman that told us that everyone was going to burn into ashes? She was right. Now I know everything. Now I know everything.
Reichenbach, January 1945.
I'm so tired of the 4 a.m. roll calls, Muncie. I can hardly feel my feet from standing for so many hours every day.
It's better than Cellepel at Auschwitz. Nothing could be as hellish as that place.
Do you think there'll be a lot of work today? The factory was running low on airplane parts. Do you think they'll be getting more?
Maybe it means the war is nearing an end.
There it is, Muncie. That smell. I can imagine the fresh loaves of bread.
And the cakes.
And the danishes. I dream of going into that bakery.
It's the smell of freedom.
Move!
Many months earlier in Auschwitz, my father had told me through things, always volunteer to work. Eat whenever and whenever I can. And that the company I am with could make me or break me. His words stayed with me throughout the year of being transported from Auschwitz to Reichenbach on Death March and to different rent work camps. My sister Mansi and I clung to each other and to my father's advice for survival through each horrible day. I stand now in this moment of silence for my parents, my 3 brothers, and my 2 sisters, and beautiful baby Pesca, who never got to live her life.
I lived through the deadly conditions of the Lodge Ghetto for 4 years. At that time, I was a young teenager and I worked many different jobs to keep my family alive. I remember having to hide my siblings and watching my grandmother being dragged away during a selection. In August 1944, the mass deportation started. Section by section, the ghetto was liquidated, and we had no idea where they were taking us.
Auschwitz, August 1944.
Can you have a surprise? They're gonna please, we're so hungry. Please, so hungry from you. Please, you have the food for us. Please.
Those women are crazy, hardly wearing anything, and with their heads shaven and wild eyes. They must be crazy.
Clothes off and your heads will be shaved. Now go take a pair of shoes from that pile over there.
Now we look like crazy women too. Please, ma'am, I was separated from my father and my sisters were taken from me when we arrived. Where were they taken?
Oh, don't think you're in another ghetto here, ladies. I came from Lodz just like you, but I'm here a month already. You see that smoke? That's where your families are.
Auschwitz, 10 days later.
Snow to the trains! Bergen-Belsen! You will live in these tents!
Bergen-Belsen, September 1944.
Snow! Rochlitz! You will work in this factory!
Rochlitz, December 1944.
Snow! Grosslitz! You will take these rocks up and down this mountain!
Grasslitz, January 1945.
Now march! And if you stop, we will shoot you!
Death March, April 1945.
Stop! We will stay here for the night.
In the forests of Czechoslovakia, end of April 1945.
Think we could eat this grass?
It looks sharp and coarse.
Only way to know is to taste it.
It's a bit bitter, but not as bad as yesterday. I don't know how much longer we can go on like this.
We did go on. We kept marching until they put us in a barn, and although we were terrified to escape, we hid under the straw until they left us behind. We slowly realized that we'd free. It was April 1945. We had no idea how to survive or if we would ever get home. But one thing I knew for sure, I had lost my childhood, my teenage years, and the future I dreamt of before the war. I stand now in this moment of silence for my mother, my brother, my sisters, and all that we lost.
We were shipped by cattle wagon from the ghetto to Auschwitz. We tried to believe that we're going to a better place, but crammed into that train car with no room to move or air to breathe. We knew it was not going to get better. And when the doors opened and we spilled out to the sounds of yelling and barking and gunshots, we knew we had arrived in hell.
Auschwitz, May 1944.
Shloimi, they're separating the men from the women. Hold on to your brothers. Do you hear me? Take care of Isaac and Yisrael. I love you, Shloimku.
Isaac? Yisrael? Come back here. Mama said to stay with me. Don't go with her. Stay with me.
Auschwitz, June 1944.
Excuse me. I need to see a doctor for my foot. I was wounded in the ghetto and I need a doctor.
No, you don't. You're going to burn soon.
Burn soon? Uncle Yisrael, why did that man say we were going to burn? What does that mean?
Don't ask questions, Shlomo. Don't ask. Don't talk. Just stay here.
Excuse me, sir, I'm so hungry. Can you give me something to eat? A piece of bread, maybe?
Sure. Give me your shoes and I'll give you some bread.
But what will I wear on my feet? Excuse me, sir, what will I wear on my feet? I have a bad foot.
Here, these wooden ones.
Flossenburg, February 1945.
It is hard to tell how much time has passed. Almost a year, I think. We've been in many different camps and worked many jobs. We stand to be counted morning and night, and we work all day between the roll calls. Time seems to stand still, and yet, at only 15 years old, I feel like an old man. I'm crying all the time, but I cry to myself because everyone here is as helpless as me. Please, sir, last night's bread, I put my piece up there to save for later, top row of bunks, and it was stolen. Please, sir, I'm so hungry.
Bread? You want bread? Come with me. Hans, come join me for the fun. I'll count. 1, 2, 3.
I was 15 years old, and they beat me until I couldn't feel anything anymore. I cried myself to sleep that night. I cried myself to sleep every night, camp after camp, march after march, Auschwitz, Elmbusch, Neuburg, and Flossenburg. It was almost better to have no family with me. At least I didn't watch them all suffer. These things are too hard to talk about. I stand now in this moment of silence for my two little brothers and for all the people we lost.
We spent a month in awful conditions on the boat. We lived in a small space behind the door to the toilets, and there was hardly any food, and everyone was sick. In 1940, we finally landed in Chirchik, Uzbekistan. My father was drafted to the Russian army soon after, and my mother and sisters found jobs to keep food on the table. And when I became old enough to ask questions, I had many to ask.
Chirchik, Uzbekistan, 1944.
But Mama, when can we visit them? I want to know my babushka and diedushka.
We don't have grandparents, baby.
Hush, Anna. It's true. Didn't you hear what they were saying in the bazaar?
Lilia, we can't be sure that it's true until we hear from them.
But what if we aren't hearing from them because they are dead?
Lilia!
Dead? What do you mean, Lilia? Mama, what does she mean?
Well, Isabella, there was an accident with the Jews.
From 1941 to 1942, the Nazis murdered over 2 million Soviet Jews, mostly by groups of soldiers called Einsatzgruppen, or mobile killing units. Entire communities were marched into forests, forced to dig their own graves, and then shot into the trenches. Isabella's entire extended family met this fate.
Chirchik, 1945. Hirsch, let me help you sit down. Tell me what you need.
Elena, I'm fine, really. It's just...
Papa, how are we going to make the journey to Chernivtsi when you could hardly use your feet?
Why are they black, Papa? What happened to your feet while you were away in the army?
Leave your papa alone, Isabella. He's tired and sick, and he needs to rest. Is it a letter from the doctor? What did he say? Will the gangrene go away?
It's not from the doctor. It's from our old neighbor, Rita, Elena. They're all gone. Our entire family. The whole community.
Chernivtsi, 1947.
I will put more lotion on Papa's feet when he wakes up, Mama. It makes him feel better. Mama? Where's Papa?
Mama, did something happen? Where's Papa? Mama, where's Papa? What happened?
Mama, why are you being so quiet? Please tell us, where's Papa?
Papa's not here anymore. He's in heaven.
But he promised he would be with me always. Who will take care of us?
I will. I will, my loves.
My mother was not educated, but she had so much wisdom. When it came to being our mother, she was our rock, our strength, even though she had lost so much. I think about what it must have been like for her. I stand now in this moment of silence for my papa and my grandparents and for all the people we lost.
It was on a Friday that we were forced from our homes and were pushed into train cars with whatever we could carry. After 3 days, we arrived in a place where there was no sun, no color, no life. Auschwitz. This was a scene of utter chaos and despair as families were separated. It was the last time I saw my father, my 2 sisters, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters-in-law. My head was shaven and I was put in with 1,000 other women into a barrack. My sister Rachel kept me alive. If not for her, I would not be here today.
Auschwitz, May 1944.
Rifchu, you must drink that soup every day, no matter how bad it tastes. See? You can stand now because you drank it.
It's water with grass, Rachi. I cannot bear to swallow those sharp pieces of grass.
You don't have a choice. If you faint during Selapel, they will take you away. Do it for me, Rivka. I cannot lose you. I cannot bear standing 5 hours like this, day and night without you.
You should have gone with the other woman. You could have gone out of here, and you wouldn't have to take care of me.
I will stay with you, even if it means staying here in Auschwitz. I'll never leave you. I cannot lose you.
Salzwedel Barracks, July 1944.
They saw me, Rachi. They saw me sleeping at the machine. But 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., how am I supposed to stay awake? Feeding the machine all night to make bullets. I can't keep my eyes open.
Hopefully they didn't see you, Rivka. Hopefully it will be okay. You will have to will your eyes to stay open. I will try to bring you more bread from the kitchen. I'll take whatever I could hide under my arms when I go to work tomorrow. It will help to keep you up at night.
Salzwedel Kitchen, July 1944.
Your sister is on this list. They are sending her back to Auschwitz. It's a whole group. That's who all this food is for.
Please, sir. Please get my sister off that list. I cannot lose her. She's a strong, hard worker. She does not belong in that group.
It's not up to me.
Please, sir, I'm begging you. I'll do anything for you. When this is all over, I'll clean your house. I'll cook for you. Anything you want. Just please get her off that list.
I'll see what I can do.
Roki was 12 years older than me, and she didn't leave my side the entire time. From the moment we entered Auschwitz until a year later when we were liberated in Salzwedel, we stayed together. Even as I speak, I myself can hardly believe it. There are just no words, and I stand now, this moment of silence, for my father, for my 7 brothers and sisters who perished, and for all the people we lost.
The silence of freedom.
When the war ended, we were left with a warped sense of freedom. We could go where we wanted, but we had nowhere to go.
We could be with whomever we wanted, but we had no one to be with.
We could start to imagine a future, but we had lost the ability to dream.
We were free to speak about what happened to us, but it would be decades before we could find the words.
We hugged and we kissed and we cried with joy when the Red Cross liberated us in May 1945. But then we didn't know what to do next. My sister and I knew that we had lost our whole family, so we followed the Red Cross to Denmark and then Sweden. And on April 8, 1946, we made our way to Philadelphia, where we had an aunt and uncle.
After we were liberated, I returned to Lodz, hoping to find someone from my family. Every day I went to check the lists of survivors that were hanging on a public wall, and one day my father's name was there. He would arrive in Lodz a few weeks later and stay with me as we went through an orphanage to the famous Exodus and finally to the DPA camps in Germany. It was a confusing and difficult 3 years, but I had my Tate back.
After being liberated, by the Americans in May 1945 and then surviving typhus. I discovered that my mother and sister had survived. We met back in our hometown in Grande, and together we began the journey to America to finally be reunited with my father in New York.
After my father died, I grew up very quickly. We lived in awful conditions, and I learned to feel the role of my missing father. We never talked about what happened to our family during the war. In fact, we never spoke about being Jewish at all. We didn't practice, we didn't observe, we hardly knew we were Jewish, except, of course, when I tried to get into college. Then they made sure I knew I was Jewish. We were not wanted anywhere.
The first time I ventured into the city of Salzwedel, after we were liberated, I saw a rose bush. I hadn't seen or touched a flower in a year. I picked a rose and took it back to the camp. For me, it represented freedom and the notion that one day, maybe I might be happy again.
The silence of hope.
We did not want to jeopardize our future by burdening it with the past. So we threw ourselves into building our families and our homes.
We coped with our trauma by not talking about it.
We distracted ourselves and focused on the hope of the future, our children and grandchildren.
I met my husband Ernest, who happens to be Sal's brother, in Philadelphia, and we moved to New York to begin our lives together. My sister Monsi moved to California, and we remain best friends even today. Over the years, I learned to cry on the inside so that my children didn't see or hear the pain of my past. When they asked about the number of my arm, I told them I had forgotten my phone number and wrote it on my arm. I wanted to give my children a home full of joy and Yiddishkeit, and I did. In fact, I have a wall of fame in my house with all the pictures of my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. When I am alone in the quiet of my house, I stand and stare at that wall. They are my victory.
I got married to my husband, Elchanan, and I had 2 sons in the German DP camps. And even after all our hardships, we built a beautiful life in America where I had my 3rd son. Now in my 90s, I'm, thank God, so busy. But in the rare moments of silence, when I am alone, I get overwhelmed and teary-eyed to think about how blessed I am after all that I went through. My 3 sons stand together and do business together, and I'm so proud of them. And from them and their beautiful wives, I have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and now a great-great-grandson. There's not much silence in my life anymore, and all that noise is pure delight.
I lived with my parents and 3 siblings until I married my beautiful wife, Adele, who I have been married to now for 67 years. We built a home together, and I had many different jobs to support our children. Adele and I raised them with love and Yiddishkeit and good sense of humor. I kept the stories of my past fairly silent so that I wouldn't pass the suffering into my children. Today, I have many grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and to dance at their wedding and watch them build their own families is pure joy. The sounds of their laughter and singing Zmiros on Shabbos is a thrilling reminder how blessed I am.
Becoming a teacher was the first choice I really made for myself, and I carried this love of teaching with me when I emigrated to America in 1979. With a lot of effort and dedication, I became an assistant special education teacher at PS 186, where I taught for over 20 years. Today, my greatest joy are my children and grandchildren who fill me with laughter and pride. You know, it was not until September, when I was invited to participate in Witness Theater, that I really started to explore my past. I joined the program hoping to find out more about what happened to my family during the Holocaust. And because of the students, what I discovered was a deep love of Judaism and a connection to my history and my people.
After the war, Rachel and I traveled to France, and eventually we made our way to America. She remained my closest friend until she died 8 years ago. I met my husband Yaakov when I was 25 years old, and we raised our children in Brooklyn. When they were little and we had dinner together every night, and I would look at their faces and feel completely at peace. In Yiddish, we would use the term gespiegelt, which loosely translates as a reflection of joy and pleasure. They were a spectacular image to me after all I had been through, and their children and grandchildren are my pride and joy today. Being in Witness Theater this year is certainly an unexpected experience for us survivors, and I'm amazed with these kids who leave me in awe. They are an inspiration. They have been so patient each week and always willing to sit in the silence with us when that was what we needed most.
In the beginning, there was silence of hesitation, deliberation, and doubt.
We wondered if we should tell, why we should tell, and what we should tell.
But those silences were met with love and reassurance.
And soon, They became the silence of listening, remembering, and healing.
Actually, it was in that silence that we felt truly heard.
In those moments of silence, we were able to hear our own breath and our own thoughts.
We could feel the stories settling into our souls.
Our emotions raged and our convictions strengthened.
We could feel that if ever there would come a time when our history was challenged,
we would say that we met Ruth.
And Anne.
And Saul.
And Isabella. And Rivka.
And we would remember how brave they were to share their past with us.
And make certain that their stories will never be silenced.
We'd like to do something very special right now. Ask you to participate. We're going to say a parak of Tehillim that should be on the side. If not, you know it by heart. Followed by Kaddish that will be recited by our very, very special guest, Saul. And as a response to what we're doing tonight, at the same time, we'd like to wish Saul and Adele a very big mazel tov, because this morning they celebrated the birth of a great, great grandchild. Okay, please join me. I'm sure you know it by heart. Shir lamalot, esayinai al harim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yitein lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine lo yanum, v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha ayad yeminecha, yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzitcha uvoecha, mi'ata v'ad olam. Kaddish, Saul.
Iskadai Shmai Rabu. Yom Lebchisai, Yom Lebchisai, Chaya, Chom Yom Echon, Chag Survive, Bagor was Man Korav Yom Romain.
Main, Yehei Shmei Rabon, Tarach.
Yehei Shmei Rabu, Mubarach Lolam, Malom Mamayu, Yisborach, Yishtaba, Yispor, Yisrom Snasai, Sada Visalol Shmai Kuchabachu. Lan Merkhosu, Khosum Shrosa, Khosum Nakhosum Yarmov, Yom Romain, Yashram Chaim, Toyim Malain, because survive in Romain. I say, Shom Imroimov, Uyasa, Shumalain, because survive in Romain.
We now move straight to the El Maleh Rachamim. El Maleh Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim. Hamtzei menucha nechona al kanfei ashchina b'ma'alos kedoshim u'torim kizoar akiyam asirim es nishmos Hakedoshim Yatorim Shehum Nitzu Vishenergu Vishenishchatu Vishenitzrifu Vishenitbiyu Vishenechneku Al Kiddush Hashem Yidei Atzorim Agermanim Yemashimam V'Zichnam Ba'avur Shekol HaNe'esafim Mekan Mitpalilim yaras karas nishmoseyem Began Eden Tei Menuchasam Lochein Baal Rachamim Yastireim Betzei Knafav Liolamim V'yitzeror B'tzror HaChayim Es Nishmoseyem Adonai Hu Nachalosam V'yanuchu B'shalom Al Mishkivoseyem V'nomar Amen. The families that our Witness Theater survivors built is really the answer to all of our oppressors. And we'd like to end our program with words that we just said at the Seder, and that's what we're here for tonight. Shlo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu. But we're here to show that Hashem never leaves us. And Am Yisrael Chai, please join us. Vehi she'amda lavoteinu Vehi she'amda lavoteinu milanu Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechaloseinu Amad aleinu lechaloseinu. Please join us. Vehi she'amda lavoteinu Vehi she'amda lavoteinu milanu Shelo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechaloseinu Amad aleinu lechaloseinu Kadosh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Matzilenu Mi Kadosh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Matzilenu Mi Please join me in wishing all of our Witness Theater participants good health, long life, so they continue the beautiful work. Big hand, please, ladies and gentlemen, please.